It's Game 2 of the ECAC Hockey quarterfinals, and the Quinnipiac Bobcats are facing elimination. Hello, everyone. I am Kyle Levasseur alongside MJ Baird. We'll get to tonight's game in just a moment, but before we do that, we have to look at last night's game, Game 1, a 2-1 win for the 8th-seeded Bears, and it was thanks to late-game heroics, a goal with 21 seconds left tied the game, and then an overtime goal ended up winning it for the Brown Bears. So, MJ, I ask you this, is it going to be insurmountable for the Bobcats to overcome?
Well, Kyle, I don't think it's insurmountable. I think that's a big word. However, it's not going to be easy. I mean, look, last night I think this team, and even Ren Pecknold, although he may not admit to this, was thinking, okay, we don't have Chase Priskie, our captain. We don't have Luke Shiplow. Let's just get by. Let's win this game. We're the better team. And I'm thinking this is probably what they were thinking heading into last night. And they were 21.5 seconds away from doing that. Ultimately, you see Brown score that goal late in the third, and then everyone's kind of thinking, oh no, is Brown going to take this one? At least all the fans here in Hamden are. Ultimately, the Bears do. So is it insurmountable? No. However, Quinnipiac needs to get back to the basics, needs to do what they do best. Rand Pecknold says it all the time, play Quinnipiac hockey and get their reward. Last night, they didn't play Quinnipiac hockey. They tried to cheat the system a little bit, and by that I don't mean not play the game the right way, but just not pay attention to all the little details that makes them successful. They tried to cut corners, it came back to bite them, and they lost in overtime.
After the game, Pecknold said that the Bears just wanted it more, and sometimes that can be the difference in the game. All right, one bright spot for the Bobcats last night was goalie Andrew Shortridge, who made a career-high 38 saves and shut out the Bears until there was just 21 seconds left, and then a goal slipped by him in overtime. He'll have a little more help on defense tonight as Luke Shiplow, who was suspended from last night's game, joins the defensive unit. Chase Priskie still out due to suspension from that Yale game to end the regular season. Will they have enough defensively for tonight's game, MJ?
Kyle, I think they'll have enough. Granted, they won't have what they've had all year long. They're also without Brandon Fortunato, but he's not coming back, so he's not really involved in this conversation. Look, Shiplow brings a senior mentality. Been there, done that mentality. His leadership style can slide in, take over for Priskie. Look, he's not going to compete at the same level as Priskie. Priskie's a #1 defender. Shiplow might be a 4 or 5, right? So he's not going to bring that talent that they need, but I think he's going to bring the leadership ability and enough to rally these guys to say, hey, we're not going to let the Brown Bears come to Hamden and sweep us. I don't see it happening.
Speaking of Priskie, he's still out tonight. They really missed him on the power play last night. First period, they had a 5-minute all-you-can-eat power play, as Rand Pecknold loves to call it, right. But they went home hungry, not being able to score, and they only leave the game with 1 goal scored. What are they going to have to do offensively to generate more offense?
I think it's kind of a difficult answer, and there may not even be an answer. Rand Pecknold's kind of, I think, experimenting with that right now. Last night we saw on the power play, specifically that 5-minute major that you referenced, Kyle, Odin Tufto kind of slid in to Chase Priskie's office, as we like to call it, right. That left-hand face-off dot where he takes that one-timer. But TJ Friedman, who was playing defense yesterday and is also listed on the D chart again tonight, he moved in front of the net. So they kind of added Friedman to that first unit. Did it work? Okay, not really. However, the Bobcats did have a couple good chances. They ultimately just didn't finish on them. So speaking to that power play specifically, I don't think they need to change anything. They've probably been practicing that formation and all that personnel all week long because they knew they'd be without Priskie and Shiplow. However, I think
for 2 weeks even with the bye from last week.
Good point. They had 2 weeks to work on it. So I think Shiplow slides back in on that second unit, but I don't see any changes on the first unit, but we'll have to see. Time will tell.
Now, it is Saturday night. We've talked about it all year long. Saturdays have been struggles for the Bobcats. However, this series seems to be a little bit different because they're only preparing for one team. They lost last night. The entire year, Quinnipiac has not lost back-to-back games. Do you think Brown, though, is going to have too much momentum and maybe give the Bobcats their first back-to-back loss? I
think it's interesting you bring that point up, Kyle, because I had written a column earlier in the year about how Quinnipiac is so much less successful on Saturday nights than they are on Friday. They have a winning record, a far winning record. I think it's 11-1 on Friday nights, but on those Saturdays, they're around 500, 6-6 or so. So you bring up a good point. They're preparing for the same opponent, so I don't see that trend continuing. For anyone who's read it, you may say, okay, Saturdays, here we go again. But like you said, they've been preparing for Brown all week, so they know what they're getting. They're not preparing for something different. There's no changes. So to answer your question directly, does Brown have too much momentum? No, I don't think so, and here's why. Quinnipiac, they don't want to get swept in front of their home crowd here. Whether it's spring break or not, that student section is not going to be full. We know that tonight, but they're not going to want their fans to see them lose as the 1 seed, Coke Cleary Cup champions, and then everyone's going to be saying, Well, if they only had Prisky, and if they only had Shipla. So I don't see them letting it get to that point. Now, losing tomorrow in a Game 3 could be a different story, but as for tonight, I don't see Brown sweeping this series.
It's Game 2, just an hour away. Follow all our content on Q30 TV, or Q30TV.com, as well as Q30 Sports on Twitter. All right, the game's coming up next on ESPN.